Welcome to the Soul Audit Office. My name is Magda. How can I help you? Yes, I realize it's been a long wait. Your world is overpopulated. There were never supposed to be this many of you, so we're backed up. But you're dead, dearie. You have all the time in the world. So instead of complaining that there are too many other dead people in line, why don't you tell me exactly what the problem is? You do know that you're dead, right? Good. That's a start. So, what can I do for you today? You are dissatisfied with your allotted afterlife. Aren't we all? Yes, you've come to the right place. The Soul Audit Office is... You know what? Why don't I just read you our mission statement? It explains it perfectly. I've got it here somewhere. Here it is. The Soul Audit Office exists to ensure the equitable and efficient allocation of all afterlives. Through rigorous assessment, calibrated correction, and diligent record-keeping, we strive to align each soul with the afterlife most suited to its essential qualities and condition. Doesn't that sound nice? Clear and concise. Quite good as far as mission statements go. Don't you agree? Oh no, not everyone waits in line like you. The lines are just for the dissatisfied ones. Upon their arrival here, most souls pass through the SAO quickly. They accept their allotted afterlives and walk through one of the portals, right over there. Those who are not willing to do so are referred to a clerk like me for further processing. I can assure you that it is our solemn intention to prevent the misplacement, misclassification, or misapplication of any mortal essence, thereby safeguarding the dignity of eternity and the integrity of the hereafter. We also like to remind all petitioners that eternity is binding, but not yet immutable, at least not as long as you stay here at the SAO. You can petition for a reassignment of eternity, provided the proper forms are filed, the requisite penances performed, and the necessary stamps affixed after each soul floor is purged or acquired, depending on the entry conditions of your preferred afterlife. And that can be a rather lengthy process, I'm afraid. Well, if you were aiming for a particular afterlife, you really should have acted accordingly to whatever its entry criteria are while you were still alive, shouldn't you? It's usually not a secret. Which one did you get then? I see. Yes, that is a rather poor one. not much to look forward to. What have you got there? You made a list of your top 3 afterlives. Alright, hand it over then, and I'll take a look. One, Elysian Fields. 2, Vale of Reverie. 3, Misty Grove. Right, look, it's not that we don't appreciate initiative, but we don't exactly have a menu of afterlives that you can just pick from. Choice is not the guiding principle here, I'm afraid. Fine, I'll humor you. We can go through your top 3. Although I am almost certain that you don't qualify for any of these. What is the state of your soul exactly? You don't know. We'll have to look into that in a bit and see what you do qualify for then. Conditions. Yes, of course there are conditions. That's the whole point. Let's go through this list of yours then. Elysian Fields, your first choice. This is part of the Greek pantheon. Yes, it's supposedly a very nice place. Did you ever worship the Greek gods? So, why would they let you into the best part of their underworld, the part reserved for the heroic and the virtuous? Elysian Fields is for those favored by the Greek gods, mainly heroes like Achilles, Ulysses, Perseus. I heard Heracles was there for a while. But you? No. I'm afraid not. You don't stand a chance at getting in. It's a very exclusive club. So let's move on. The second on your list, Vale of Reverie. I'm not familiar. Let me look it up. Just give me a minute. I will find it. My file cabinet is infinite. It contains everything on everyone and all places. Convenient, yes, but it does take a while to look things up. Here it is. Designation Vale of Reverie. Classification Tier 3 Afterlife Environment. Festive/natural. Supervising deity Eridessa, Lady of the Blooming Vale. Ah, the one the ancient Greeks remembered as a goddess of the dawn. But this iteration of her is more ancient, Indo-European, I believe. From the description in here, she seems very possessive of her followers. How did you even hear about this one, Let's see what else it says. General description. The Vale of Reverie is a sustained state of communal celebration situated within a regressive, naturalistic environment. Features include continuous musical performance, non-repetitive, perpetual bonfires and illuminated flora, uninterrupted provision of food, drink and intoxicants, self-replenishing of course, suspension of fatigue, aging or consequence within designated boundaries, that's almost a given. Eternal dawn, hamlets, forests and meadows. The Vale is considered a favourable placement for most petitioners. Here we are. Conditions of entry. Per the terms of admittance set forth by Eridessa, candidates must fulfill the following criteria as assessed on a case-by-case basis. First criteria: amnesia of love, full erasure of all personal attachments and emotional bonds, required to prevent interference with communal euphoria. And the second criteria: in all cases, soul condition must be flawless. Are you willing to forget about all your loved ones in order to enter the Vale of Reverie? You are? Really? Alright. A bit unusual, but if you say so. And the second criteria of flawless soul. If I were to print out your SCR, that's your soul condition report, would I then find that it is flawless and without any residual mortal burdens? No, I didn't think so. Should we take a look at your third choice then? Misty Grove. I do know this one. A Daedric afterlife. Sanguine, unless I misremember. The prince of revelry and debauchery, and dark passions. I can't seem to find an afterlife named Misty Grove. A mistake? I don't think so. My file cabinet really does contain everything, you know. Perhaps if I search for sanguine. Here we are. This is a Tier 4 afterlife. Supervising deity, Daedric Lord Sanguine. It is called the Realms of Revelry. Misty Grove is just a small part of it, it seems. I suppose you've been there before, and that's the part of it you remember. Hedonism, debauchery, indulgence, and excess. I suppose you liked to party when you were alive, and you want your afterlife to be one continuous party. Yes, your little list seemed to indicate something of the sort. I see why you would be interested in Sanguine then. But there is a reason why his realm is tier 4 and not higher. It is a place where all pleasure is mixed with a certain amount of malice. Did you know that? Listen to this description. The realms of revelry consists of eternal summer nights, filled with lavish banquets and dangerous temptations, where guests can lose themselves so fully to pleasure and vice that they become trapped forever. The revelries can quickly turn sinister, with indulgence leading to ruin. There are no concrete examples, but although this is indeed listed as an afterlife, I think it frequently mentions guests that get trapped there, rather than souls seeking it out for eternity. It might mostly be a place where people visit. It also seems somewhat fragmented and unstable. There are mentions of places within this realm vanishing or morphing, like an endless drunken dream, it says. Are you certain that this is what you want? You do look a bit uncertain now, but let us look at the entry conditions anyway. Were you ever claimed by Sanguine in a Daedric pact? You were not, I see. Did you die during or because of acts of indulgence, revelry, or debauchery? No. Then I'm afraid you don't qualify. I'm sorry, dearie. It's a nice list, but if you have not been accepted by a specific deity while still alive, your final destination will be determined by one thing and one thing only: the condition of your soul. Your personal preferences are not relevant, I'm afraid. Yes, that is the way it works. Well, there is one exception. Once every 100 years or so there's a raffle. Then 10 unworthy souls gets to go somewhere nice. The previous one, it was held 8 or 9 years ago, I believe. Bit of a wait for the next one, yes. And your chances are minuscule anyway. Reincarnation? I'm afraid not. That's hardly ever done anymore. There's just too many new souls being made all the time. And deities want souls for their afterlives, you know. It strengthens them, grows their realms, and Different souls for different goals, you know. The damaged or flawed ones are good for fueling the dark and grim realms, filled with demons and brimstone and the such. The flawless souls are good for the nicer, paradise-like afterlives. And of course there's everything in between. So, what you think of as real life, or the realm of the living, is really just the initial sorting ground for your soul. Unfair? I don't see how you could come to that conclusion. In my humble opinion, it is a very well thought out system. The deities get what they need to grow and fuel their realms, and the dead gets what's coming to them, for the most part. Where you end up depends on how you lived your life, and who you worshipped. How is that not fair? Well, perhaps not for atheists. Doesn't really matter if they were good or bad. What happens to them? When an atheist dies, they get to work here as clerks at the Soul Audit Office. Isn't that just peachy? We get to learn all about the different afterlives, deities, how souls work and so on. Everything we didn't believe in. All so that we can help you lot out. And the queues are endless. So, you'll excuse me if I'm not too sympathetic when you're dissatisfied with your allotted afterlife. At least you got one. Now, please put your hand on the SIR, the Soul Imprint Reader, the flat thingy there, so I can get a readout of your soul, of course. Before I can tell you what afterlives you do qualify for, I need to know the condition of your soul. So, put your hand on the thingy, please. Thank you. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, you can remove your hand now. You certainly have your work cut out for you. Your soul is fractured, fermented, sedimented, extinguished, aimless, warped, and bitter. 7 soul flaws. That is more than average. Let me be frank with you. The afterlife you have been allotted is not the worst someone with your soul could have gotten. The others you qualify for will certainly be worse. Perhaps you should just... Well, yes, I understand that. Are you about to cry? Please don't. I hate it when you lot cry. Fine. I'll help you. There is something you can do, but it will require a lot. I did mention penances before, and the purging of soul flaws. It is done right here in the gardens of alteration. If the gardens is a part of the SAO, it is more correct to say that the SAO is part of the gardens. The gardens are rather big, you see, and there's a lot of them, more than one for each floor, with supervising attendants assisting petitioners. Yes, they are the ones appointing penances to souls who wish to change in one way or another. You could improve the condition of your soul there. Perhaps not all that try succeed. And might I remind you that in order to get into your second choice, you need to get rid of all 7 soul flaws, which would be a tremendous endeavor. You are unlikely to succeed, and if that is in fact your goal, you might still be here when it's time for the next raffle. Perhaps it is more realistic to attempt to get rid of 1 or 2 of your soul flaws, and then we can reassess you. You will certainly qualify for a larger selection of afterlives then, and perhaps one of them will be acceptable to you. Well, either way, we need to make you a ledger of imperfections. You cannot enter the gardens without one. This will be a very important collection of documents that you will need to carry with you for the duration of your stay. Do you understand? Do not lose it, or you yourself will be lost. The ledger of imperfection needs to list all your soul flaws and also contain a number of forms that you can fill out as you progress in your soul flaw removal process. It is important to remember that each of these forms needs a stamp from the relevant garden attendant, otherwise they will not be accepted upon reassessment, even if the flaw has been successfully removed. The attendants can be a bit unsettling, but once you have completed whatever penance they require, you do need to get their stamp of approval before you leave. Here, a nice folder for you. This can be your ledger of imperfections. It's even green, the color of hope. This rather large tome is the Compendium of Mortal Stains, an enumeration of the 700 Melodies of the Soul by Thaddeus Pindlewick and Cordelia Blackthorne, complete and unabridged. It contains all soul flaws. We should go through yours and see exactly what gardens you need to visit and what forms you need. So, if we do this alphabetically, we must start with aimless. There is a short description. The aimless soul shows an inability to hold one's course. You are slothful, viceful, and express the willful abandonment of talent and interest. You are inconsistent, unpersistent, incurious, and generally lacking. You are overly willing to please. You are envious, obsequious, and forever swayed by other people's opinions. Does that sound at all familiar? Oh, I know you are. The SIR is never wrong. But I find that those who are willing to admit their flaws, or at least have enough insight to recognize them in themselves, tend to do better in the gardens. All right, good. Now, if we look up this floor in the back half of the book, which contains the directory of authorized gardens and attendants. The Garden of Drifting Paths treats aimless and a few other floors. It is a shifting labyrinth, its walls made of heads and limbs. Its paths loop and vanish, souls wander there until they find a purpose. Voices try to lead you astray. Limbs grasp you if your resolution falters. You have to find a purpose, a motivation, a goal that originates in your own mind, your own will, even if it is shaped by desperation. How big it is. How big are any of the gardens, really? It is impossible to say. Distance is malleable here. At any given time, the Gardens of Alteration keeps maybe 12 and perhaps more than 600,000 petitioners. The attendant of the Garden of Drifting Paths is the wayward shepherd. It is described as a twisting, serpentine creature with dozens of tails and a blank, featureless face. It gestures with spindly hands, endlessly redirecting visitors. It will trick you if you let it. Yes, I realize that, but what you must understand is that each attendant is both a guide and a trial. Remember, the only requirement for release from this, or any of the gardens, is change. Genuine change. That is something that you ultimately have to do yourself. If the attendants help you too much, it will not count. When you have changed enough to leave your soul floor behind, you will find the exit. You have to let the garden work upon you. And remember to get your stamp of approval from the serpent creature with no face on your way out. And that reminds me. You need form TP05 pathway finalization docket. Here it is. I will add it to your ledger. Let's carry on then. Your second soul flaw is bitter. The soul carries the taste of old grievances, steeped too long in its own resentment. It is sharp on the tongue, acrid in the breath, and leaves a dryness like old stone-washed jeans. Its light is tinged with yellow, as if stained by years of sour reflection, and when stirred, it releases a faint hiss, like a kettle just before the boil. Paints quite the picture, doesn't it? And this flaw is treated in the brine garden, a marshland of stagnant water and brackish lilies, blooming in salt and spite. Bitterness leaches into the roots until the soul either lightens or dissolves. Yes, dissolves. That's what it says. Its attendant is called the drowned scribe. It is described as a sleek amphibious figure with skin like brine dark water and salt-covered tendrils writhing in the marsh around it. Its eyes are black pools, reflecting bitterness back at the soul. It will push you back in if you are not ready. And the scribe requires Form GH66 Gall Neutralization Report. I'll give you the last copy I have. Yes, there's a lot of bitter people out there. This is one of the most frequently visited gardens, I believe. The next soul flaw is extinguished. It's quite a short description for this one. Inspiration flickers but never catches. Ideas fade before action. Procrastination usually wins out. Related to aimless, I'm sure, but it needs a different cure. The Garden of Reignition treats soul flaw extinguished. Gentle rekindling through exposure to loss, silence, and eventual flickers of desire. Attendant is the lantern bearer, a gaunt, flame-blackened figure, face hidden between soot-streaked gauze. It carries an extinguished lantern that will flicker back to life when a petitioner is ready to move on. there is a small note in the margins. Silence and ash, a terrible place. We are not allowed to write in the margins. Who did this? It says here that this garden is a wasteland of ash, and that the ash is alive, shaping itself to your memories. So you can work through a lot of things here, I'm sure. These gardens do tend to overexpose someone to a certain flaw, to such an extent that the petitioner will either get stuck there or be so disgusted with the flaw that they manage to throw it off forever. Yes, I'm afraid so. Not everyone who enters leaves. In that sense, the gardens themselves do act as afterlives for some. You might meet other petitioners in there, in all stages of deconstruction or decay, as well as their left behinds. Yes, left behinds. Forgive me, I forget how new you are to all of this. Soul flaws are something added on top of the original soul, or something that changes the soul in some way, cracks it, curdles it, and so on. They can be removed in the appropriate garden, and the soul will then heal over time. The stuff that is removed, if you are successful, does not simply cease to exist. We call them left behinds. There are other entities that prowl the gardens for them, pick up the ones they like, to become eligible for the darker afterlives. The ones fueled by torment and punishment, you know. Some of these entities wish to serve there as staff, demons if you like. They often need to darken their souls to qualify. So in the gardens you can meet the attendants, other souls like yourself, or ones that are quite different. You can meet demons or entities on their way to becoming demons. And you can meet left behinds. They do sometimes take on a life of their own, if they are left alone for long enough, that is. Oh yes, it's a fascinating phenomenon, really. How it happens almost spontaneously. Spontaneity in this place. Can you imagine? Highly unusual. But don't worry, other people's left behinds will probably not be interested in you. But I'm getting off track. Shall we continue? For the lantern bearer, you will need Form 109. Reignition request. Here it is, and added to the ledger. Your fourth soul flaw is fermented. Your soul is bubbling and pungent. You know, I did kinda notice that when you came over. It has sharp, acidic notes, it says, and a slow corrosion of curiosity, leaving thoughts stiff and brittle. Yes, fermented comes with a certain inflexibility. And it can be treated in the Garden of Swollen Vats, which is described thusly. Vines drip with overripe fruits, pools and cisterns bubble with sour essences. Souls are submerged until their sharpness mellows. Their excesses are drawn out and distilled into vapors. Sometimes what remains is clarified. Sometimes it is left flat and tasteless. Sounds rather efficient. This one provides a concrete treatment rather than letting you figure it out on your own. You just have to endure it, dearie. The attendant of the Garden of Swollen Vats is the patient fermenter, a bloated, rot-scented humanoid whose skin bubbles and peels like sourdough. Its hands drip with acidic liquid that tests the soul. There's a bit more. The fermenter hums in low, unsettling tones, encouraging you to steep in your excesses until they are extracted from you. And for this one, you will need Form BF22, Certificate of Decanted Spirits. Very well, on to the next one. Fractured. Let's see what their compendium says. The soul exhibits hairline cracks through which memory and purpose seep. You have a habit of magnifying small worries until they distort everything else. Some of your soul substance has leaked away. Your shell rings faintly hollow when tapped. Yes, I can just about see it if I squint. This floor is treated in the Garden of Shattered Reflections. It is described as a labyrinth of broken glass, mirrored pools, and crystalline blossoms. Souls are guided to pick up fragments of themselves, though the shards cut as they're handled. Over time, the soul is pieced together anew, but never quite in its original pattern. Very clever. You change even as you put yourself back together. The Garden of Shattered Reflections is attended by the Glass Rite, a towering figure made of jagged mirror shards. Its head constantly refracts the visitor's image into dozens of broken fragments, some true, others are lies. You have to distinguish between them and pick the ones that belong to you before you can leave. And for the Glass Rite, I will give you form SV17. If I can only find it. Here we are. Declaration of the completed collection of residual shards. Only 2 left now. The next soul floor is sedimented. Layers of unprocessed guilt and regret has settled like silt on the soul. That's the whole description. The soul floor sedimented can be peeled away in the garden of silent effigies. This garden is described as a graveyard this time, of statues carved from pale, unyielding stone, all of them containing a soul trying to break free. The stone is made of memories calcified, regrets hardened, and choices petrified. It is a peaceful place, apparently, like graveyards tend to be, with trees heavy with rain and dark green leaves, and the occasional moonlight shining through them. There are notes in the margins again. It says, compression, stillness, and eventual surfacing through endurance. Who wrote these? The attendant is called the Hollow Warden, for underneath its layers there is no soul yearning to break free. It is a hulking, slow-moving figure, encased in thick layers of mud and stone. Its arms resemble jagged stalagmites, dragging the ground with a grinding sound. And yet it raises an arm, now and then, to gently tap the statues with a tuning fork to see whether they are ripe. This one is not too bad, is it? Unless you're claustrophobic, I suppose. I'll just add form SW34. Declaration of shedded layers. And then the last soul floor, warped. The soul is twisted and bent by unwise choices, from small compromises and white lies, and from going against itself, compromising its own values and principles, often includes a lack of integrity. Warped is straightened out in the garden of twisted trees. Trees twist impossibly, rivers flow uphill, shadows detach and move alone. The world itself is skewed. Here, crooked souls are forced to walk through impossibility, slowly straightening themselves against the distortions, or becoming lost entirely. It says that the method used on most petitioners in this garden is uncoiling oneself through exposure to paradox and impossibility. And the attendant is the twisted deformer, also called the knot binder, a humanoid grown from gnarled wood with limbs that coil and twist unnaturally. Its eyes are deep knots, and its fingers loop endlessly. It mostly observes, but occasionally presses against warped souls, bending and unbending them until their crookedness either resolves itself or it snaps. And again, there's something in the margins. A little drawing, see? Looks a bit like an ant. Here we go. Declaration of Unbinding, Form SQ47. And that is all the forms you need for the gardens themselves. But I do need to add a few more to your ledger. Yes, you might be asked to fill them out at some point. It's better to be prepared then, don't you think? This is Change of Afterlife request, Form 27B. This will definitely come in handy, but don't fill it out before you qualify for the afterlife you end up choosing. And Form AE99, Acknowledgement of Existential Adjustments. It's a simple acknowledgement that your metaphysical shape has been altered. Oh, don't worry, no one actually reads these. They're just archived in the vaults of conditional eternities. And then there is Form CC14, Continuity Certification. Before the next clerk can release your file, they will require this. It ensures that the you applying for transfer is legally continuous with the you that entered the first garden. It is mostly symbolic, but without it some deity or other tend to protest. Form PS203, Posthumous Supplement, goes with it. Quite standard, yes. Without it, left behinds that reach sentience might wander off and make unauthorized claims on your behalf. Unless you require a full revision anyway, of course, in which case we'll need Addendum D, stapled in triplicate. And then there is Form NS7, Nullity Statement. It is very unlikely that you'll need this, but if you do in fact need it, it will be in your ledger. And I'll also throw in Form FP19, Final Provisionality Report, and there is a mild contradiction between your declared warp and your declared bitterness. Nothing fatal, but it obliges me to issue a Form RC51, the Reconciliation of Contradictory Bearings. Essentially a cross-check, so you don't arrive in two places at once. There, your ledger of imperfections is complete. Take good care of it. Make sure to keep it on you at all times, so we don't lose you out there. And the last thing I'd like to mention, you have to factor in the possibility that the Gardens of Alteration might change you so much that you no longer want the same afterlife as you did before you entered. Of course, dearie, you'll probably be there for longer than you were alive after all. But don't worry too much about it. It probably won't feel like that long. I've been here since the 1960s, without a single break, I might add. And, what year was it when you died? Really? That long? Well, it doesn't really feel like I've been here for much more than a decade, 2 at most. You'll be fine. And remember, you do not need all the stamps to qualify for another afterlife. For the Vale of Reverie, you do need a flawless soul, yes. But there are many new possibilities that will open up for you if you get rid of only, say, 3 of your soul flaws. So feel free to get back in line even without all the stamps, and we'll take another look at what we can offer you then, dearie. Here I have this book. This is On the Nature of Corruption and Decay by Ignatius Grimble. It contains, among many other things, a small section near the back called Testimonies. Short entries where petitioners, upon leaving a garden, tells of their experience. Perhaps if I read a few out loud, it would reassure you a little. They told me to peel away my envy, as though it was a rind. I left it there, coiled and rotting, and walked on lighter. But I still feel its absence, like a phantom limb Without it, I cannot tell when I am being cheated. Now I accept too much and crave too little. My rage was taken from me in the labyrinth of lost names. Each step stole a syllable. Each wrong turn prized away another shout. By the time I emerged, I could no longer raise my voice above a whisper. I no longer know what grievances I have lost. That's not too bad, is it? Sounds peaceful. Here's another one. I left my hunger in the ivory and ebony vaults. My hunger for wealth, love, fame, power, everything. I thought it would be a relief. And it is. I am calm now. But meals are ash, embraces hollow, victories dust. They cut away too much. Oh, here's a testimony from the Garden of Shattered Reflections, one of yours. They asked me to choose which shard of myself to keep. I tried to hold them all, but the glass cut too deep. So I left my certainty behind and stitched the rest together as best I could. I smile more now, but sometimes I hear my old self weeping in the gaps. Oh dear. Let's try this one. They told me my soul had soured, that it needed to be drained. I left behind the thick, bubbling anger, the words that burned my tongue. Now my thoughts are clear, but tasteless. I am polite, agreeable, and quiet. When others speak of fire and passion, I nod and pretend to know what it feels like. Yes, there often is a sense of loss when exiting a garden, and no wonder. You do indeed leave something behind. Our soul floors are so tightly integrated, at least in some of us, that it would be strange not to feel this way. Purification is difficult, cutting yourself down to your very essence. But that is what it takes, dearie, to enter the Vale of Reverie. You're wondering if anyone actually feels better after an alteration. Perhaps this one, from the Garden of Gall and Honey. It also treats bitterness, I believe. They poured my bitterness into a cup and bade me drink it over and over until I could no longer taste it. Then they added honey. I smile sweetly now. I speak kindly, but the sweetness still feels foreign in my mouth, And sometimes I wonder where all that bitterness went. If it is pooling somewhere, waiting for me. You know what? Perhaps reading these were not such a good idea. I'll just put this away. Look, it is up to you what to do, but you do have to make a decision. Go through one of the portals, or have one of our valets show you to the first garden. You cannot simply hang around here unless you're waiting in line. You'll try your luck in the gardens then. Very well. Don't forget your ledger now. And here. A complimentary pen. Now, if you'll just go with Monty over there, he'll show you to the first garden. Yes, the one with the horns and yellow smouldering eyes. We're done here, so move along now. Next.